Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a close look at Davenport, Iowa, the River City.
Yeah, we've got some really interesting analysis covering its history, economy, culture, the whole journey.
And our goal here is to sort of unpack what really shaped Davenport, from its beginnings right up to, well, today's challenges and its future.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how the Mississippi, or Oshkosh, its indigenous name, has been both this engine for growth and a recurring hazard, a real defining paradox for the city.
Definitely. Okay, so let's dive into the founding. It's spot on. The Mississippi wasn't accidental, super strategic.
Right. Founded in 1836, following all that westward expansion push, and not long after the Black Hawk War in 32.
And that land, it was deeply significant for the Sauk and Meskwaki people. Treaties like St. Louis in 1804, the Black Hawk Purchase, they ultimately forced the tribes west.
It's important context. And, Black Hawk's symbolic meaning has really shifted over time, too.
Key figures early on were Antoine Leclerc and Colonel George Davenport.
Leclerc, the interpreter, he got the land grant, set up the first ferry, the first hotel, really foundational stuff. He even donated land for the first Catholic church.
And Davenport, the investor the town's named after, provided the capital. They worked together early on.
That early growth was all about the river, really.
Yeah.
Ferries, steamboats. They fueled industries like flour milling, lumbering.
Then came 1856, a huge moment. The first railroad bridge across the entire Mississippi.
Championed by George Davenport himself, and famously defended in court by Abraham Lincoln, no less.
Wow. Yeah, that connection, linking river and rail, that must have been a game changer for trade and transport.
Absolutely. And you also had agriculture booming, attracting settlers, especially Germans who set up their own neighborhoods, cultural groups.
Right, building a distinct community feel.
Yeah.
And by 1840, Davenport is the Scott County seat, a real launching point for westward movement.
It even served briefly as Iowa's first military HQ before the Civil War, so a lot happening early on.
Okay, so that set the stage for the big industrial period later.
Exactly. Mid-20th century, Davenport was a major industrial hub. Really diverse.
Like what kind of industries?
Oh, agricultural equipment, think International Harvester. Locomotives from Davenport Locomotive Works, they exported globally. Victor Animatograph, pioneers in 16mm film tech.
No kidding? Film tech, too.
Yeah. Plus, meatpacking with Oscar Mayer, aluminum with Alcoa, lots of different things. It created a ton of jobs, really shaped the city's identity.
A real powerhouse period then. But like a lot of the Midwest, that didn't last forever.
No, the later 20th century saw de-industrialization kick in, national, global shifts. You know the story.
And the 1980s farm crisis must have been brutal.
Oh, devastating. Plant closures like Caterpillar shutting down, huge job losses across the whole Quad Cities area. It hit hard.
Was there a lot of labor history tied up in that? Unions?
Definitely. Unionization was significant. There were even conflicts, sort of union wars between different groups like the FEUE and the UAW, different philosophies. Cold War politics sometimes played a role.
Interesting. So strikes, negotiations, that whole dynamic left a mark.
A lasting legacy, for sure. You still see echoes today with recent strikes at places like Eaton and John Deere in the broader region.
So fast forward to now. How's the economy looking? It's shifted, right?
It has. It's much more diversified, though manufacturing is still a big piece.
Yeah.
You've got John Deere, Arconic, Kraft Heinz.
And healthcare seems massive, too.
Yeah.
Genesis Unity Point.
Yeah.
Palmer College of Chiropractic started there, didn't it?
World's first. Yep, healthcare is a major employer. Then there's logistics, XPAC, Amazon retail HQs like Von Maur, Lee Enterprises, plus the Rock Island Arsenal for defense.
So a broader base.
Yeah.
And cost of living is lower than average.
Generally, yeah, especially housing. But unemployment has sometimes been a bit higher than Iowa's average, and poverty rates are still a concern, more so than for the county or state overall.
That makes revitalization efforts pretty crucial then.
Absolutely. The Downtown Davenport Partnership is active. They're working on that Main Street Landing Riverfront Park, designed to be flood resilient, which is key there.
Flood resilience.
Yeah.
That's a constant theme with the Mississippi, isn't it?
Always. So they're upgrading storm sewers, raising roads. There's a whole plan. Plus other downtown improvements, trying to foster innovation with things like the Quad Cities Manufacturing Institute.
Supporting startups, regional growth, makes sense. What about the people, the social side?
Well, historically, you had the early German immigration, then African Americans since the 1830s, Mexican workers in the early 20th century. The population's been fairly flat since the 80s, mostly white, non-Hispanic, but with growing Black and Hispanic communities.
And public services, schools, housing.
Housing affordability is tricky for some, even with the lower overall cost. The school district is diverse but faces academic challenges. Healthcare providers are working on access disparities and mental health needs.
And the social issues like disparities, population stagnation.
Yeah, racial and economic gaps persist. Poverty's higher for Black and Hispanic residents. Population trends are a challenge. Jobs, school quality, taxes, even the winters and flooding play a role. But communities are responding, the Civil Rights Commission, various diversity efforts, groups like the YWCA, World Relief, the Hispanic Chamber.
It sounds like there's a strong cultural identity despite the challenges.
Oh, yeah. The Bix-Beiderbecke Jazz Legacy is huge festival museum. You've got major museums like the Fig, the Putnam, one of the oldest west of the Mississippi. The library has special collections. The Mississippi Valley Fair is big.
And being part of the Quad Cities, spanning 2 states, that adds another layer.
Right, that bi-state economy and culture, the cross-border stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's a unique setup.
So wrapping up, Davenport's story really mirrors a lot of Midwestern cities, doesn't it? Adapting to economic change, living with a powerful river.
Exactly, and their ongoing work on revitalization, on resilience, it's a case study in navigating the complexities of the 21st century.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, the listener. Davenport's made a pretty specific choice about flood management, prioritizing river access, maybe aesthetics, over more traditional walls or levees. In a time of changing climate, what are the long-term implications of that choice?
What does balancing that connection to the river against increasing environmental risk really tell us about a community's values? Something to think about.